Alaska Airlines has teamed up with Hawaiian Airlines to create new nonstop international flights. Go to alaskaair.com or hawaiianairlines.com, and I'll tell you more details later in the show. I'm Rachel Belle, and this is Your Last Meal, the show where celebrities share stories about the foods they love most, and we dig into the history, culture, or science of those meals with experts from around the world. Today on the program, Molly Yeh. Molly is the Emmy and James Beard Award nominated star of Girl Meets Farm on the Food Network. She's also a best-selling cookbook author. Her newest book is Sweet Farm, 100 desserts that are oh so Molly. With flavors like tahini, marzipan, Hawaiian halva, there is a whole chapter on Midwestern cookie salads and American classics like vanilla cupcakes with vanilla frosting. But because it's Molly, a meticulously tested, super moist, buttery, perfect specimen of a vanilla cupcake. Molly also owns Bernie's, a bakery and cafe in East Grand Forks, Minnesota. And this is her second time on the show. She was a guest on the Greta Gerwig episode, sharing the secrets behind her homemade funfetti cake. You can find a link to that episode in the show notes. And speaking of cake, there was an event in March called Cake Picnic that went cuckoo viral. Home bakers brought and devoured nearly 1,400 gorgeous homemade cakes in a San Francisco park, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since. So I tracked down the event's creator, and we will hear from her later in the show. But first, my conversation with Molly Yeh.
How are you? It's so good to see you.
I know, you too. Thank you so much. Molly shoots her Food Network show, Girl Meets Farm, at her house, which is located on a sugar-beet farm on the North Dakota-Minnesota border.
I had absolutely no intention of ending up on a sugar beet farm ever. I didn't even know what a sugar beet was growing up.
But then she met Nick, the man who eventually became her husband. They were both studying music at Juilliard in New York City. Her degree is in percussion. He plays the trombone.
We went to school together. He moved away. And then when he came back to New York, we, re-met at a party, and I saw this tattoo on his arm. And I said, "What's that tattoo?" And he said, "It's a sugar beet." And I said, "What the hell is a sugar beet?" And he started explaining it to me, and I immediately was like, that just all went over my head. Great to see you again. I'm glad you're back in the city. Goodbye. Never going to see you again. I'm going to this other side of the party. We're talking about a root vegetable? Like, what the heck? This is not what I came to this party for. But it was a few weeks or months after that where we actually hung out. We went on a bike ride, and I actually got to know him and actually really got to hang out with him and see the person who he was. And that's when I was like, okay, you're the person that I'm going to marry. I'm going to take this sugar beet thing seriously now.
Did you really feel like you were going to marry him after that first date?
100%. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It just was a different feeling that I had ever had with anybody else. It wasn't butterflies. It wasn't really nervousness. It was more of this sense of calm and this sense of like, okay, this is how I'm supposed to feel. And this is how I want to feel for the rest of my life. And I think I'm sensing that he's feeling the same way. So it was like, honestly, only a matter of time before we were like, let's leave this city. We just wanted to spend Friday nights sitting on a couch, watching Netflix, ordering pizza. And if there's one place in this country where you should not be paying rent to stay at home on a Friday night, it is New York City. So we started talking about where we should move to. He said, "Well, I have this farm." I thought, yeah, that sounds great.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Because also at the time, after a few years of studying music, I realized that I was getting a little bit more creative satisfaction in food. I had my food blog. I was living in the city with all this amazing food, and all I wanted to do was go out after orchestra rehearsal and try the next great slice of pizza that I could get my hands on, or, track down a food truck. It was at the height of the food truck era. I was like a schnitzel truck fangirl. I just only wanted to try new foods and blog about it, and then ultimately create recipes inspired by things that I ate. And so this conversation of moving to this small town and to this family farm, painted this picture of this place where I could blog all day and create recipes all day and take pictures of them. And that was so extremely exciting for me.
They moved into the home Nick's grandparents built in the 1960s, and Molly grew her blog, My Name is Yay. I found Molly in 2015 after My Name is Yay was named Blog of the Year by Savor magazine, and I instantly became a devoted superfan. I loved her personality, her humor, her writing, and I had never seen a home baker make cakes like that before. Beautifully decorated, creative, neat as a pin, and designs just as adorable as Molly herself. I could also tell from the photos that it was exactly the kind of cake that I love. Super moist and dense. You basically live on a dessert farm because your husband is a sugar beet farmer and he also farms wheat. So basically you go outside and it's like everything you need to make a cake.
Everything I need is right there. I see it growing before my very eyes. Yeah, it's the coolest thing. And then when they're being harvested, you can walk out to the fields and I just like to inhale it, even though it's going to make me sneeze a bunch. But it smells like pizza. It smells like a bakery, or it smells like baked goods. The wheat that Nick grows, it's high protein wheat. So it actually, a lot of it gets shipped off to the Bronx for bagels.
Oh,
so it's
amazing.
the land of bagels here.
Yes. Nick is a fifth-generation farmer, and ever since he made Molly the driest, most rubbery scrambled eggs on their first date, she has happily taken over all of the cooking and baking responsibilities.
This is how great he is in the kitchen. So miso ginger salad dressing is one of my favorite recipes on the New York Times cooking app. So good. And I was going through a phase where we were going through it by the quart. I'm cooking all day and my assistant Paige and I, we're just cooking stuff. And a lot of it might turn into stuff that we're going to have for dinner. And so on one of our testing days, we whipped up a batch of this miso ginger dressing, stuck it in a deli container, put it in the fridge. And next thing I know, Nick comes in for lunch and he does this thing, which he very commonly does. He just reaches into the fridge, takes out a container, dumps it into a bowl, heats it up, eats it, and then he's on his way. And I didn't think anything of it because we had tons of containers of stuff in the fridge. And then I go to make dinner that night and I'm putting together the salad. I'm looking for this salad dressing and I see this container and I'm putting two and two together and realizing, oh my God, Nick just ate an entire bowl of salad dressing for lunch. Because the salad dressing is nowhere to be seen.
He heated it up.
He heated it up. Isn't that gross?
Did he think it was good?
I don't know if I even asked him that. The thing about Nick is that, he'll eat anything.
Coincidentally, I made that exact miso ginger salad dressing last night, and there's quite a bit of rice vinegar in it. So this must have been a very puckery little soup. When we come back, Molly shares the unexpected secret to being an excellent baker, and we talk cookie salad, which is 100% a real thing. Molly's recipes have a very distinct style, often influenced by her culture. She's half Jewish, half Chinese, and has adopted a lot of the upper Midwest and Scandinavian Midwest culinary traditions since she moved to the farm. And sometimes those cultures collide.
Okay, so there's a black sesame babka. I always say if I was a pastry, this would be me because it's Asian and it's Jewish. There is a black and white cookie salad. Cookie salad is an iconic upper Midwest dessert that I love so much. That is a bunch of crushed cookies folded into a whipped pudding mixture with some fruit. I really liked this mashup because it solved the problem that I frequently have with black and white cookies, which is that they dry out before I can eat them all. So cookie salad, it is to cookies what French toast is to bread. It revives anything that is stale or old.
On the note of cookie salads, America is really latching on to cookie salads. Like that's a lot of the attention I think your book is getting. I think that you are probably making the rest of the country aware that there is something that is called cookie salad from the Midwest.
I think if it didn't have such a charming, quirky, unique name, people wouldn't be both drawn to it and repulsed by it. So it's a blessing and a curse. There are so many things that are so common that are technically cookie salads, but because they're not called cookie salads, they don't get the kind of attention. So like banana pudding is a cookie salad. It's got the cookies, it's got the fruit, it's got the pudding and the whipped cream.
Is that the definition of a cookie salad, to have those elements? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It's got to have those elements. You know, like a trifle is a cookie salad. Eaten mess is a cookie salad. You know, I would even take the argument that a tiramisu is a cookie salad. You know, yeah, ladyfingers, they're cookies.
One thing about Molly, she is a tireless recipe tester. For example, her funfetti cake. She tested 9 different types of sprinkles, which means the first round of testing involved baking 9 cakes just for the sprinkles alone. And that was just the first round, not to mention the countless tests she did to get the cake and the frosting just right. This is the kind of patience and attention to detail I wish that I had. To be clear, I did a lot of testing for my cookbook, Open Sesame, but I very purposefully did not attempt any baking recipes that would require a Molly level of testing. I'm curious how you learned to develop baking recipes, because I love to bake, but I still don't understand the science of it. I don't know what'll happen if I put an extra egg in. I don't know the difference between baking powder and baking soda. And so trying to like make a baking recipe my own, I don't really even know where to start. How did you get there to the point where you're talking about adjusting recipes by 1/8 of a teaspoon? Is it just tons of trial and error?
What was your subject in high school? Where did you thrive in high school?
Writing.
Yep. I would have guessed that. Here's where you start. You have to just like change your DNA and become like a math and science person.
Okay.
And I was never a writing person. Words never came naturally. Even still today, reading books, reading a novel will take me like months, and it's kind of embarrassing.
You're such a good writer, though. I mean, it just feels so natural. I was noticing when I was reading through this book, your writing is so natural and so you and so good that it sounds like it must have just fallen onto the page, which I don't know if it did.
That is okay. You're so sweet to say that. I think, you know, it might come from the fact that I naturally struggled with it. It's just how my brain operates, having the fascination with the numbers, you know, being able to do like the conversions of the grams to cups. If a batch of cake needs increasing by, you know, 1 1/3 times, like that calculation comes easy to me, and having all those gram measurements memorized and stuff like that. Okay, of course, like the baking soda is going to need to react with something acidic. It's because I still have that visual in my brain of that science experiment where you combine the vinegar and the baking soda and it creates a volcano.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, like that was such a formative time in my life when we did that. And I always think about that when I'm adding the baking soda to a cake. I'm like, okay, this is going to create a volcano within the cake and it's going to help the cake rise.
Because, yeah, it seems like you don't mind making the same thing over and over and over and over till you get it right.
It is that scientific method, though, I could show you my notes. For each recipe, I have a Google Doc where I have version 1 at the way bottom. And then, you know, we would cook through it and I would taste it and write down my notes. And then I would immediately copy and paste it and put the new version above it. And then it would get labeled version 2. And then version 2, I would immediately, while it's fresh in my brain, go through which ingredient amounts I want to change and which directions I want to change. For every recipe in Sweet Farm, I did that. And some of the versions, you know, would be, you know, 4 or 5 versions. Some of the versions got into like the 20s, 30s. That's just the way that my brain works, and that's why writing a baking book came in many ways naturally to me. The writing, man. I would love to be a natural writer like you.
I would like to be more scientific like you. I mean, just hearing that though, I feel like everybody should just go out and buy this book because if you're testing a recipe 32 times, it's gonna work. It's gonna be good.
It better work. Guys, don't screw this up. It better work.
The beginning of the cake chapter in Sweet Farm starts with this line. I have always been and always will be a loyal member of Team Cake. Decorating cakes with frosting, marzipan, flowers, and sprinkles is my artistic medium of choice. And a lot of Molly's cakes sound like art. Coconut raspberry rose pistachio, fresh mint olive oil cake with preserved lemon yogurt whip, roasted squash cake with brown sugar frosting. My mouth is watering, and all of this cake got me thinking about Cake Picnic. If you follow a lot of food accounts on social media, chances are you saw the viral Cake Picnic video at the end of March. And if you're like me, you had major FOMO. It was the dreamiest thing. A sunny blue sky San Francisco day and table after table after table of gorgeous homemade cakes. Nearly 1,400 cakes brought by Cake Picnic attendees who were permitted to walk around and claim as many slices of cake as they wanted. The internet lost its mind. I lost my mind. We all wanted to be invited. So I tracked down the event's organizer to learn more.
Hi, my name's Elisa Sunga. I am the Cake Picnic Tour founder.
Elisa started getting really into baking during the pandemic. And after she decided that sourdough baking wasn't for her, she got really excited about making cake.
I love cake so much and I wanted to eat a lot of it, but I didn't want to bake all of it myself. So I had this sweet problem where I was like, so how do I create the situation where I am just surrounded by a lot of cake? And so I thought to myself, okay, if I put together an event and just made it an absolute hard requirement that anyone coming to my little party must bring a whole cake, that would mean a lot of cake. And so I posted the event on my Instagram. Didn't really think much of it. I think for me, if 10 people or 15 people came with cake, that would be already a lot of cake. So I would be happy with that. And I was just so surprised that within a few hours of posting the invite on my stories, I didn't even post it to the feed because I was like, this is just some small little fun thing I want to do. So just on stories, it started going viral where every time I would refresh the page, there would be like 50 new RSVPs. So like 150, 200, 250. And I was getting scared. Thankfully, they were all as serious about cake as I was. And for that first event in April 2024, I think there was like 180 people and cakes that joined that first one.
The event that was never really intended to be a big event was such a success, Elisa immediately planned another one in Los Angeles.
The first San Francisco one was April with 180. The month after was LA with 250. October 2024, 300 in New York. Did it again in San Francisco in 2024 with 600. And so for the first 10 months of Cake Picnic alone, there was like over 1,000 cakes on the tour. But early this year, the San Francisco Legion of Honor Museum reached out again because they were hosting a new exhibit of Wayne Thiebaud. And all of his work is so iconic in that he does a lot of paintings with cakes. And so we were like, we need to do another Cake Picnic. So that one was March 2025. And that's the one that really went viral. And that one had 1,400 cakes.
Oh my
yes.
God. In order to create order, the attendees are broken up into groups and each given a time frame to wander the aisles of cakes.
In that time frame, people can get as many cakes as they want. And it's so funny when I'm observing the event because some people will just like slowly take their time reading all of the labels, looking at the cakes. Some people are not looking, they're just cutting cakes. And so it's fun to see what strategies people are employing as they go down the tables for cake.
Elisa is a full-time program manager at Google and says the skills she uses at her day job lend themselves really well to organizing an event like this. Although,
at some base level, every Cake Picnic is some level of chaotic. How do I rein in that chaos so that it's some sort of like acceptable form of chaos? I think that you're going into Cake Picnic expecting to get buttercream on your hair, on your shirt, crumbs everywhere. There is some level of chaos. But in terms of the event, it's pretty quick. I think for the bigger ones that are like over 1,400, it's 2 to 3 hours. The smaller ones go much quicker. As the organizer for this, I think a lot about, okay, what does 1,400 people coming to get cake look like? How do I avoid the mob mentality? Because I do think that there is also just this fear of running out of cake that I always try to dispel. And like every time I talk about cake picnic, I have to remind people there will be so much cake at the end that I will be forcing you to take some home. And believe it or not, you're actually going to tell me that you don't want any more cake. But people don't believe it.
Do you notice a difference in the cities you visited of the cake culture?
Yes. So that's another reason why I love Cake Picnic so much. There is almost like a regional variety too to cake. So in San Francisco, I've been noticing a lot of like very creative Asian inspired flavors. For LA, I think the decorations was like leaning a lot into like nature and florals and just like this very like farm to cake approach. And then New York, because seasonally that happened during fall, a lot of the flavors are like pumpkin, apple cider.
Just as you're talking, I'm getting cake today. I have to. I'm going to. My friend and I are going on a bike ride, and I'm like, "What's on the route? I'm gonna have to stop and get cake."
I think there's something so freeing about realizing and owning the fact that cake is for any time, and you could decide to lean into like the luxury of it. You can celebrate any time and just have cake, and I love that because I think growing up, cake was always reserved for like birthdays or really special occasions. And so prior to Cake Picnic, I would probably be eating cake 3 or 4 times a year. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like that is so little compared to like how much, not enough. We should be eating more cake, be surrounded by more cake and just really embracing this like cake culture.
Next month, for the first time, Cake Picnic goes international. Elisa is flying to London to host an event, and she's already planning a much bigger tour for 2026. After the break, I finally get to ask Molly a question that has been on my mind for years, and she shares her last meal. I have a huge question that I've been wanting to ask you for years, actually, because you were always the sprinkle queen. I mean, like millions of sprinkles at home, sprinkle collection. And then I either read or heard that you kind of were not into sprinkles anymore.
I think, well, okay. I've become more selective. It's not that I'm over them, but, there was a time where on Girl Meets Farm, we were just putting sprinkles on everything. And through personal growth and also people telling me like, why are you putting sprinkles on that? I think I really had some introspection and thought, I think there should be a time and a place. And that's the stage in my life that I'm at right now. Is
you had a therapeutic breakthrough with sprinkles.
100%. Yes. So now I'm sitting on like a bunch of stale sprinkles, which actually make the greatest sensory activity for a 3-year-old. So they are not going to waste. I still like a sprinkle moment, but I'm getting better at becoming more selective about them.
That makes me think about when people start associating something with you and they just keep giving it to you as gifts. I told my mom one time when I was younger that I liked mermaids, and then everything is mermaid.
Mermaids
I'm like,
everywhere.
I never even really liked it that much. It's like now everything is a mermaid. I don't want it. And like, yeah, people probably still give you sprinkles.
That is exactly the case. And you're so wise to point that out. It's totally the case. You feel like it's kind of out of control. Like now everything has to have sprinkles. Did you have like mermaid wallpaper? Like it just had to be everywhere. Otherwise you felt bad. So I still like them. I just not that much, guys.
What would your last meal be?
Salami, matzo brei.
For people who don't know, what is salami matzo brei?
Well, so matzo brei is a dish that is traditionally eaten on Passover because it is matzah that is broken up and folded into scrambled eggs. I really love matzo brei because it fulfills this thing that is lacking in scrambled eggs, which is textural integrity. Scrambled eggs on their own, unless you're eating them, shoveled up onto a piece of toast, they're too mushy. There's not enough texture going on there. I want to work to chew my food. And the matzah provides that. And it is so comforting until the cows come home. Would you agree that a majority of people like their matzo brei sweet?
I've been seeing more of that on Instagram. Growing up, we ate our savory, and I've actually never had it sweet. It's kind of like kugel, where it can be sweet or savory, and people who've never had it are like, why would you make noodles sweet? Or
Ew, yeah,
why would
sweet
you make
mac and cheese? Disgusting.
Yeah,
Yes,
why would you make scrambled eggs sweet?
I was repulsed by sweet matzo brei for the longest time. Here's where it clicked for me. It was a Sunday morning. I wanted something brunchy. I wanted something sweet, like a pancake or a French toast. I don't even think it was Passover, so I could have made pancakes or French toast, but I was too lazy and I didn't want to make a batter and I didn't want to like go through the whole thing. And I thought, oh my God, matzo brei is just an easier way of making a pancake or a French toast. And with this French toast vision in mind, I put cinnamon sugar on it and it was really good. But I am still very much a savory matzo brei person. There are a million different ways that I've had savory matzo brei, like, you know, with spinach or cheese, or Joan Nathan's, she has a chilaquiles matzo brei that's really, really good.
That's how I think about it, as Jewish chilaquiles.
Yeah, it's Jewish chilaquiles. But I have a thing for cured meat. As I was thinking of what my last meal truly would be, I went through all these versions of different foods, but they all centered around cured processed meat. Like I thought, bologna sandwich on white bread with mayo and lettuce.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, or like a salami on a croissant with butter, or breakfast sandwich. But at the end of the day, I think that the salami matzo brei, you know, ticks the box of processed meat. And then it ticks that box of nostalgia. Matzah in egg, slightly softened, a little bit chewy in some parts, a little bit soggy in other parts. Sitting at the counter growing up, my mom cooking up a shallot, soaking the matzah in water, cooking that up, and devouring it with a spoon. Gotta eat with a spoon.
I was just talking about this with someone, how much of a difference it makes to eat with a spoon. It makes it so much cozier and comforting to eat things with a spoon.
Because it's easier. You can get more. You can get bigger bites.
So with the salami, is this Genoa kind of salami or is it Hebrew national salami? Do you fry it first? Get it crispy? How do you do it?
I fry it a little bit. I don't like it to be crispy. I just want to render a little bit of the fat so that it kind of lends some of that flavor to the rest of the mixture. As far as a type of salami, I love Hebrew National. I love anything that's fatty and kind of mild. I made it yesterday with a salami that was a little bit too peppery, and that kind of messed with my taste buds. It had too much personality.
Calm down, salami. Calm down.
Calm down. Yes. Stay in your lane. Just be salty and fatty.
Coco Chanel yourself. Take one thing off before you leave the house.
Yes, exactly. It could be, you know, I've had it cubed. I've had it sliced. I've had it thinly sliced. And it's all good. It's all really good.
Hebrew National Salami reminds me of my grandma. She would always make us a bagel with mayonnaise and Hebrew National, just like a big chunk. And that to me is so nostalgic.
That is the exact last bagel that I had at Absolute Bagels on the Upper West Side of blessed memory. Yes, it was salami, mayonnaise, and a bagel.
I didn't know that you could get it in public.
You have to ask for it. I don't know that they publicize it, but they have salami. I mean, they make sandwiches. Order the bagel that you want.
Would that be your whole last meal, or is there anything else you'd like with it?
I didn't think about this part. I mean, I do like ketchup with my matzo brei. I like a little dill on it. I can have something sweet afterwards.
Yes, of course.
Okay. It's got to have marzipan. My mind is going to like a slice of princess cake.
Which I think I might have learned about from your blog.
Really?
I think
princess
so.
Cake is like everywhere now. All of a sudden it's everywhere. That is the combination of chewiness. It's got the cream in it and the cake. You know, cake over pie any day.
Yeah, in the pie section of your book, it sounds like you almost wrote it grudgingly. You're like, other people like pie. Let's do pie.
Have you read that really, really old newspaper op-ed titled, "Why Don't We as Jews Eat Pie?"
No.
Oh, you've got to look it up.
Okay. Why don't we eat pie, even though I eat pie?
It has to do with pie fillings being too slippery, and cakes, you have to work at chewing a little bit more. I don't know.
We like a harder road
silly
to get there or something.
Yeah. We like to suffer a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Can I change my answer?
Of course.
I think I would do a rainbow cookie instead of princess cake, because first of all, it fits the vibe. I mean, if you're having a matzo brei, you're going up to the counter, you're paying, and you're seeing the stack of stale rainbow cookies at the till, and you're getting one, right? But it also checks the box of chewy, dense cake, almond flavor. It's got the chocolate in there. It's got jam. It's really pretty. And then if it's my last meal, I'm not having to worry about all of the food coloring that's in it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, for people who don't know, can you kind of go through the layers of what a rainbow cookie is?
A rainbow cookie, like a black and white cookie, is a little cake. So it's layers of very thin almond cake. I love that there's almond paste always in the cake layer, and it's a very dense, chewy, moist layer of cake. And then in between the layers, there is jam to glue them together. And then there's chocolate, a very thin layer of chocolate on the outside. I mean, you make it in a big rectangle, and then you slice them into these perfect little cubes. They're Italian rainbow cookies, but Jews totally appropriated them. But they're stacked up in the orders of an Italian flag. And every deli has them, it seems like, too.
It probably happened in New York, right? Because the Italians and the Jews.
Lower East Side, baby.
Yeah. And that was Molly Ye's last meal. It was so fun chatting with you. I'm so glad we got to reconnect.
This was lovely. Thank you so much. Keep on killing it.
Molly's new cookbook, Sweet Farm, is out now. Pick it up at your favorite local bookstore. You can watch Girl Meets Farm on the Food Network. The show is in its 15th season. Molly also very sweetly wrote a blurb for my cookbook, Open Sesame, along with Dan Pashman from The Sporkful, Seattle chef Tom Douglas, and of course, fashion designer and entertainer Isaac Mizrahi wrote the very funny foreword. You can pick up Open Sesame wherever books are sold. What should I bake first from your book?
The tahini cookies, if you're not sick of tahini.
No, I'm not.
Chewy, soft tahini cookies.
Okay.
Yeah, very
chewy,
big,
frosted tahini cookies. Thanks to Elisa Sunga, founder of Cake Picnic. Go to cakepicnictour.com if you want to stay up to date on the cities that Cake Picnic is visiting next. You can find a link in the show notes. Your Last Meal is a product of Seattle's Cascade PBS. Go to cascadepbs.org to become a member and get on-demand access to all PBS programming. As you may have heard in the news, we are currently at risk of losing federal funding that was already allocated to us for the next 2 years. So we can really use your support. Membership starts at just $5 a month. This episode was produced and edited with Maliha Syed and mixed and mastered by senior producer Sarah Bernard. Original theme music by Prom Queen, who I interviewed about food in my Cascade PBS newsletter this week. It's called The Nosh Newsletter, and if you're not already subscribed, find a link in the show notes or in the link tree in my Instagram bio. Hello, Rachel Belle. The Nosh Newsletter drops every other Wednesday. Your Last Meal was created, hosted, and co-produced by me. I'm Rachel Belle, and this is Your Last Meal. Do you have the Rachel Antonoff bagel sweater?
I almost wore it.
You did? I have it
yes.
also.
Yes. Wait, I've seen a picture of you wearing it somewhere.
I've been wearing it for my book tour.
Truly almost wore it. I looked at it in my closet. I was like, oh,
that would have been so cute if we wore our matching ones. And I wore it a couple weeks ago to do an interview for a radio show. And the woman said, "Is that a hamburger?" And I almost dropped dead. I couldn't help
walked out
because I know her a little bit. I was like, that is the most goyish thing anyone has ever said. It's a bagel, a bagel. Speaking of being a homebody, I read this funny quote from you. Somebody asked you if you would prefer lake or ocean. Do you remember this?
And I said nothing because water's gross.
You said
Or
you wanted
bathtub?
your bathtub. Yeah. So you're an indoor girl.
I'm an indoor girly through
Yeah.
and through. Ugh. Lakes.